Warning: this program may contain explicit language that may be considered offensive or inappropriate to children and some adults.
The following content is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello, and welcome to hour 11 of our 24-hour live stream. We are having a 24-hour live stream to fundraise for Flirting with Destiny. Flirting with Destiny is going to be the very first self-produced project by Woe Nelly Media. Now, Woe Nelly Media does a few projects, and we do a project in collaboration with the Springer Opera House, which is the State Theater of Georgia, and that project is called The Spot. Basically, the spotlight is on, and we put the spotlight on different things, like we might do a movie review, a new production, or anything that the Springer has going on. And what we like to do is we like to do movie reviews on the spot. So we figured we would do a nice review. So we've got an excellent panel assembled. We've got Leah, who is one of my friends from 10th grade. Yeah. And she's an actor, she is an artist, she's a teacher, she does all these amazing things. We've also got Becky Becker, who is an actor, a doctor, a professor, a homework, what's the word I want to use? Aficionado. Oh, yeah. Right. Like, so more homework than I ever want to do in my life has all been done at the hands of Becky Becker. And we also have Summer. Summer's another friend of mine from college, though. We are Jennifer Hudson, Beyonce sisters. Listen, let me tell you, I was in love with Jennifer Hudson, and usually when you meet a Beyonce, it's like, oh, well, Jennifer Hudson's better. But we were like, oh my God, I love Jennifer Hudson too, and I love Beyonce. And so then it was like, after that, I was like, yay. So also a drag superstar, a actor. Really, right now, you are killing the drag thing. So I'm so happy. And one thing we all have in common is we're not art snobs, but we just really enjoy like a good artistic endeavor. So I was like, these are the people who we need to assemble to talk about things. So I was like, what do I want to talk about? So somebody was like, well, there's this movie. I don't know how we got in the conversation of like 2-person shows or how people are working during the pandemic. But then it turned into, well, you know, Malcom and Marie is kind of like a 2-person show. And then Becky had seen this live stage version of Much Ado About Nothing, which aired on PBS. And we decided to watch those and then do a talk back. So the first part of it, before we get into it, if you want to donate or if you want to assist, please, you can just share this video or you can head over to our GoFundMe and share the page. Let people know about it. Hopefully, we're trying to raise $1,000 by the end of the day. Go to GoFundMe.com/F/FlirtingWDestiny and you can help us there. Now, without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand over things to Summer and we'll get things started.
Yes. So, well, thank you so much for having me on, Daria. I think it's so awesome what you're doing, and I hope you raise all the money for your project because I'm interested and plugged. But you reached out to us and we wanted to be able to contribute something to talk about. And we're all in the realm of theater performance and you know, directing and writing. And all everybody can think about right now is how productions, live theater and film, how are we going to progress into the future? So I thought about how the movie Malcom and Marie, which stars Zendaya and Denzel Washington's son. That's the only way I can remember him, unfortunately. John David Washington. His fine behind.
He's beautiful.
I'm sorry, he's easy to look. They're both easy.
He's an attractive dude. I hated his character.
Me too. Thank you for saying that.
But halfway through, I was like, I hate this man, but it's not. You better act because I hate this man.
And this movie was shot during quarantine, and it's a Netflix produced, on Netflix. You can see it right now. Zendaya is coming off of this amazing trajectory path with Euphoria. And if y'all are not watching Euphoria, what are you doing? And I mean, okay, look, if it's good or bad, it's still worth watching. She still does a good job.
I just haven't seen Euphoria yet.
It's awesome.
I just haven't seen it. I have no opinion, but I haven't seen it yet. I need to see it now.
Yeah. And, so Denzel Washington. What's his first name again?
John David Washington.
John.
And he, he's also having a really good career. So to see both of them together, playing these quarreling artistic lovers, I don't know. I felt triggered. I was like, this is why I can't date another artist.
Say that. So can I say something really quick?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for me, the thing that initially I got, at first when the opening shot, I was like, is this a Quentin Tarantino movie?
Right.
Yeah.
Just the way it started. And I was just like, okay. And I liked that. I didn't think it was necessary, but I liked it. And then what I really enjoyed about it was that it did feel like I was watching a play.
Yeah, it felt like some good old in the studio watching like homework happening, and dang, did I just read it? Did I just read this play? No. Yeah. But I guess the fun thing is that as you're watching it, you don't know what's going on. And that's why it's kind of like watching theater, because they enter the room and you're listening at the spatial relationship. I thought the shots in the movie was really intriguing. I think that's what kept me attached to the plot. And Washington's character, Malcolm, he's coming back from this amazing night. He's written an amazing movie about his lover who is dealing with some inner demons. We later find out that it's a movie about her struggle with addiction, but it's equal parts that and equal parts dissecting kind of like being in a relationship with somebody who's so heavily involved with your life and also your artwork. And it's there. I think I felt triggered because not only being in a relationship is sensitive, but it's like, you also know my art, how I think as an artist. Have y'all ever experienced that before? Like, just like something like I love you. And also we share the experience of art together. There's something about that, having that felt, like I said, triggering. But yeah, I think sometimes I checked in and checked out a little bit, but I think that's sometimes that's my problem with theater. So like, I think my mind, I knew to like listen. Sometimes you have to really hold on. But I don't know. How did y'all feel about like moments did y'all have any moments in the movie where you felt like you checked out, or any moments that you think that didn't need to be in it?
Yes. I will last.
Yes. I thought like sometimes during, I don't think I ever checked out during Zendaya's monologues, and I'll talk about that later. But for him, one of his last rants when he was talking about all of those filmmakers and why they made those decisions, I didn't check out, but I was like, why did what's the director, Sam Levinson? So I was like, this is his voice, this is what he's saying, and I don't ever want to feel like that. Like, I don't ever want it to be obvious that this is his POV. And I felt that a lot of times. I was like, wait a minute, this is Sam, and I could be wrong, but that's the sensation I got sometimes, and that's why I had to take a step back. Like, would Malcolm say this, or is this the point you want to get across?
I am so with you, and I was sort of so frustrated by that monologue and by him as a character.
Oh my goodness!
I thought he was the biggest gaslighter I have ever experienced, except in a bad relationship I was in a long time ago. It was just so bad, and
it was palpable. Yeah,
and so I had to, and still, I mean, I enjoyed the performances, like, so I don't want to like throw that on John David Washington, but I started to think, what is up with this this screenplay. Who wrote this? Why did they write this? And so, full disclosure, I went and did a little research.
Of course you did. Of course Becky did research.
There's a lot of controversy around this director, and
expel on that. I don't even know anything about this.
It sounds like he's been criticized because he appears to have written this to really strike against a white female reviewer who doesn't like his work. And so I was, in reading about that, I was like, ooh, so Sam Levinson, white guy, writes this screenplay, casts 2 African-American performers. What is up with that? Like I felt like he was manipulating something. So I didn't like that aspect.
I mean, I could definitely smell it that this was some caucasity in the script.
Now, I'll be honest. I didn't know that part. I agree with Leah when like me watching the movie. I'm kind of like, I don't like movies that are trying to be good movies, if that makes any sense. I don't like that. Like, hey, we want to be a good movie, and like I said, like the opening shot was like, I was like, is this a Quentin Tarantino movie? Which I was like, immediately I was like, that's not necessary, but okay. And then as it went on, like you say, you like the shots. They were beautiful, but then again, I was asking myself, but what are you saying? What are you?
Yeah, it was aesthetically really nice to look at. Yeah, it
but
felt
then
like
I was like, I wrote in one of my notes, why are we still outside? Like we saw the whole like thing from outside this window, and we're just going back and forth. And I was just like, okay. And then they never did anything else like that, you know. And so to me, it was just like, okay. And then you come back in when she puts the macaroni and cheese, which at first I was like, why? But then later I was like, okay.
The way he eats that macaroni and cheese, I'm like, why? Why is that a choice?
I'm like, there's so many moments where I'm just like, why? Now I'll be honest. At first I was like, he's a bad actor until I saw that monologue he did where he was like leaning against the bathtub. I was like, no, never mind.
Yeah, so and that's why I said
somebody told him to eat that macaroni and cheese like that, and I was like, why y'all do that to that man? At least he committed. But the issue I had was this. I was like, okay, clearly the filmmaker, this is his voice. And I agree with you. Now, when I found out he was white, I got upset because I was like, you wanted to make these statements, but you knew a white actor making these statements would not have it wouldn't have been received the way you wanted to be received. So, but then you got Zendaya and John David Washington, who are producers on this project, to co-sign it. So there had to be some sort of conversation where they felt like this was okay, or they agreed, or something went on. So it does kind of make me eyebrow raise. I can't say for sure what I think it was, but I agree. It was obviously the writer's voice, and it came through like, and it was clear like that was him, that character. It made me wonder though, why is it that her character was so amazing? I feel like her character was like well-rounded, flawed at the times when she needed to be flawed, and relatable when she needed to be relatable, incredibly well acted. So I was like, the fact that these are the 2 characters in the script confused me, because I was like, this one to me just seems like very poorly shaped, and this one seems like incredibly shaped.
I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about him. If I try and look at the intent and the writing and the actions, I'm like, he's bad. She goes back to him, and then it just feels like a really bad relationship that I don't want to be around. You know what I mean? Like, imagine being the third wheel of that, being there and be like, the first 5 minutes, you're like, actually, I'm going. You know? But yeah, I did find myself liking Zendaya's character, Marie, more. Simply because I feel as if there was something more beneath the surface, but something about Malcolm's character, I was like, I know who you are. You know, so I guess that's why I didn't want to scratch beneath the surface. After the macaroni and cheese, I was like, I don't like you anymore.
Yeah, that's what did it for me. That macaroni and cheese, I was like, I don't know why. I'm glad it wasn't just me, because I really wrote in my notes, why is he eating the macaroni and cheese like that? And I get that she came in. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say I could barely watch it because I was so grossed out by it. Actually, that macaroni and cheese moment. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I can't stand loud chewing and.
Yeah. I mean, we know he was ungrateful for the meal. We get it. You know what I mean? We get it. I understood, and that's the thing about the whole Now the middle of the movie is a little fuzzy to me, like, and that's kind of sad. You know, like what is the climax of this? Like, where's the peak in the storyline? Because I just feel as if it's so like, and that's why I said it felt like good homework to watch, because I found myself like checking out and then being like, huh, you know,
choices.
What was shocking to me was that a lot of people had a lot of opinions before I watched it. They were like, oh, it's like a toxic relationship, it's this and it's that. So I kind of went in like, okay, so what's gonna happen? But and I think Zendaya even said, like, to this day, I don't know whose side I'm on. After watching this, I was like, how are they likening them to be the same? And the contribution that they make to this argument, I was triggered because he was so terrible. And if we want to say that she was terrible based on her moment when she was on drugs and she slept with someone else, that was a moment that didn't take place at this moment. So what they contributed to this moment, I wasn't getting that they were like it to the same. He completely stole from her life, produced it, and left her out. And then dug at her during this movie and did not apologize ever. Like, it was so realistic in how those arguments shift when you're in a toxic relationship, and how, like, when he couldn't find his wallet and then that just broke that tension and she was interested in helping him find it. That was so fucking real to me. I was like, I know that shit. And I was still waiting for this apology, because he broke her when she was in the tub, completely broke her apart. And there was not an apology until we know later. And I was just like, but even then it was after she delivered such real shit about what she expected him to say. And then he apologized and she said, "You're welcome." And that was the most heartbreaking part for me. Her "you're welcome." I don't really know what I still think that meant, but I'm like, why are you likening them to be the same? They are not the same. They were not the same in their contribution in that movie. And that worries me about society.
You know what's so crazy? Leah, hearing you talk about that, the crux of why she's so upset is that Malcolm makes a speech for his amazing review of his movie and thanks everybody except Marie, whose life this is about. And it just taught me, wow, say thank you. Say thank you as much as you can to everybody around you.
I think that there's something that is really clear about this relationship that I don't know if this is what Sam Levinson was wanting, but this guy's a narcissist.
Yes.
This is a dynamic. It's an abusive relationship.
Yes.
And narcissists do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
They do.
Hardcore.
They do, 'cause that's how they control the person that is closest to them, by making everything seem like, yeah, I'm thanking everybody, and oh, I didn't mean to not thank you. But then he also cuts her and cuts her and cuts her and cuts her more deeply than, I mean, she should be out the door.
Yeah, what's making her stay in the house? That's what I want to know. Why is she still there?
And I now, this is the interesting thing about it, because it's funny. So if you ever go to rehab, one of the things they tell you is never get into a relationship within the first year of sobriety. Because your relationship becomes your new addiction. She met him while she was still addicted. That is why she stays.
That makes sense.
That is why she stays. Because he is her sobriety. Like, and it sucks because he's just as toxic as any drug.
Right.
And not saying, and there's moments of that she has where I think as an audience member, eventually she'll either realize it or he'll get right? And I do actually have hope that his character would get right, hopefully before he loses her, because he does have these moments where he is, like, when he told her that he loved her, like, everything that came before that moment of saying, he could have just said, the reason I'm here is because I love you and I don't want to be, it's not because I need you, it's because I really like that moment. Like him saying, it's not because I need you, it's purely because I love you. But everything that came before it made that just not even as poignant as it should have been. But I believed him when he said it. I believe that's exactly why, because I've seen that. And so I just feel like that's what that situation was. I really appreciate like Leah said, like the realistic qualities of that relationship. Like, you've been in an argument with somebody, but you're still in the house with them, and then you leave and you think about something else that you forgot to say, so you gotta go back and say it. Like that part, I was like, oh, but I get it, and I really appreciate all of that. I guess for me, the interesting thing about it, as far as the writing that I enjoyed, was like how they divvied out some of that exposition. Right? As actors, I was like, yes, you come in with all of that, so you know all of these circumstances, you just live, right? But as an audience, right, you just live. Because that's pretty much what they did. They just lived for 2 hours. Just like, we're going to live in this house, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love little moments like when she went out and played that song for him when they smoked that cigarette. I was like, that's a good scene to me. Just her trying to get his attention. I was like, yes, okay, but that's, I digress. At the very beginning, when she was clearly upset, I love that as an audience member, and she says, I'm mad because you didn't thank me. At that point, you're still on his side. You're like, what? Girl, if you don't quit tripping. Like, and then, but as she explains why, you're like, oh. Mm-hmm. Oh. He didn't thank you? And then eventually you're like, you should thank her. And then you change it. And I really I think it might have just been.
Oh my goodness! At that part, I felt like I was getting like head spins because remember, in that part of the movie, those circles they were. I was like, oh my gosh!
But I will say this though, that movie was really beautiful. It was really beautiful. Like visually, it was stunning to me. Yeah. Like how a black and white movie in today's day and age. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was visually stunning. I just really wish that the voice. I feel like you could have. It's funny. He does all this speech about why do we have to politicize movies? Why do we have to politicize movies, Sam Levis? Huh? Because you could have came up with that same story about the toxic relationship, and he could have been that same type of character without all that commentary about race. Now, being that it was at the hands of Sam Levinson, it makes me kind of question why it was there in the first place. But I feel like the meat of that story didn't need the politics. So why did you put it there? You wanted, and so to me, I feel like it left me feeling a little like, I don't know, like artists just want to be artists. We're not trying to make everything politicized. And I'm just like, but you're doing it right now, intentionally. So is your statement to say not to do that, or is your statement to say to do that? It was really confusing, and I feel like it took away from the point of the story about this toxic relationship, this narcissism, him taking from her and not being appreciative. Those are the themes of it. And maybe I'm wrong. Like, give me your opinion, but I didn't think it was needed after the fact, knowing all the information about it.
I don't think he should be using John David to talk about race, because I think Black filmmakers do have these conversations all the time about when my work is received, what is the white person going to write because they're in power? That could be a real concern for Malcolm, but it would now, after what Becky said, that's still him going after women. And it was interesting that like the intersectionality of Zendaya saying she was actually fucking right. What you did was wrong, actually. Mm-hmm. So like, I think to say that, you know, politics and movies don't go hand in hand would define politics, because that's important. Like the way you think about life is politics. Now you can't remove that from art, because I think artists have been making a statement forever.
There's something that I did not appreciate. Like just seeing, whenever I see a Black artist do well, you know, they get a good review and they're excelling and they have all this abundance of wealth. Why are you going ad nauseum about all of this bullshit? It does not feel, it feels like there's this age-old privilege that this Black actor is bestowed with simply because a white person wrote it. And it's not my reality in any shape, way, or form.
Shout out to Emily Dodson, who says everything is intrinsically political. She's right.
It's true.
Yeah. And something you said, Leah, and you too, Summer. I mean, what you're saying, I think, makes total sense. I don't know. I started to think that Levinson is using this as a vehicle to express his own misogyny. It seems.
Yes.
That's what it feels like because he's so
Cool. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah.
It's true. It is so fucking true.
Character. And you know, he certainly makes John David's character look horrible too, but there's something so ugly about the way
it feels like a binger, a whole night of just binging for no reason. I'm like, I need to stop.
Yeah.
So saying that, so here's my confusion. Is Zendaya and her character, because I really feel like that is such a great character, and maybe it was her delivery, but I just really enjoyed her character. So in thinking about that, this being a vehicle for his misogyny, why is that character so awesome?
Well, I felt bad for Zendaya, actually. Like, there were moments where I was like, the space is so domineering from him and this character against her. There were moments where she was listening for so long, and I was like, why? But why does she have to listen to this? I understand Marie, but it was kind of like, that was, to me, abusive. And thinking about those characters and now learning this addition of Sam Levinson, I was already thinking, like, this is so fucking abusive. Like, having to listen to him go on and on and on. She had to hold so much space for him because she was, the story said that she had to hold so much space for him and keep her mouth shut. I was uncomfortable at a lot of those moments when she was laid out on the couch and he was like clearly drunk out of his mind and going on and on. I was triggered by her, like, taking all of that in. And finally, when he left at one moment and she started crying and he went to pee, and I was like, thank you. Where, what is really happening? He broke you apart. The wallet thing happened, but I know that's still living in you. It's still because there has not been any resolve. So I feel like it was kind of triggering watching the actor live in this space of, like, men being able to do their shit. Because he was saying some fucked up shit about, like, being a man and being this. Is it because, like, I'm a man? I was like, oh,
I mean, okay, let's pick apart that. You just wrote a movie about your loved one's trauma. You're excelling off of it. And in that same night in which you did not thank her, you are triggering her and spelling out in this kind of, like, I don't even know what's the best word to describe it other than just like a demon putting her mind back into that place that makes her want to hide. Like, how do you, it's scary to understand what it takes to get to that person.
Well, Summer, you said something about what does it mean to be in a relationship with someone who has control over your art. Remember, she was supposed to have that role. He didn't give it to her because she was right about having to share. He would have had to have shared the spotlight with her. That, and then saying, like, you didn't work hard enough in our industry. You know how hard it is to be in this industry. And then to tell her she didn't work and you didn't give her the part on purpose. Yo, I was done.
Yeah, and let's talk about that monologue towards the end where, like, Marie does this fake audition for the role.
Oh my God. I audibly was like, because to me, in that moment, as soon as she did it, I'm going to be honest, I knew that's what she was doing because the rest of her, like, she wasn't acting like that nowhere in the script. So I knew what she was doing, but the whole time I was like, you better
I'm going to be so honest with you.
You better work. I was like, and then when she said, and that's what you get with authenticity, I said, yes! I literally screamed at the TV.
I didn't know either.
You
I
did?
didn't know either.
I think I maybe checked out because, like, listen, what are they doing? What hard drugs are they doing to be staying up the whole night to be? I don't know. I don't know. I was like, y'all just came back from an after party, right? Y'all been drinking. Y'all just
liquor gets you up though. Sometimes liquor will have you up.
No, but
especially like liquor, and you saw how he was drinking.
Yeah, he was. He
was drinking.
The black and white of it all kind of helps you forget what is actually happening. I think there's something that
passing and stuff,
or like remembering that's a colored liquid. You know what I mean? It's not water. I can't tell if it's water or something else. You know what I mean? So I guess I kind of maybe checked out that he was drinking. But yeah, that part at the end is just so maniacal, and it's just sad that she felt the need to do that. I mean, even though it was brilliant, you know what I mean? Like, but we're a fly on the wall. You know what I mean? We're not supposed to be there. So like,
it feels like it's the turning point in a weird way. Right? So she has to show him, like, why this role was hers, even though it should have been hers because it's her freaking story. Even though earlier he goes out of his way to tell her this part was this woman and this part was this woman. That is the ugliest moment in the entire
film.
It's so cruel. So like that's a turning point moment, and I think I wanted her to flip out and stab him.
Yeah. Same. Why not? Why not?
Y'all just
Why
in there
not?
stab his ass. Stab his ass.
Oh, you know what? The Tarantino moment would have been if there was like red blood. We see the red blood. Like that would be the
only thing
Tarantino.
that's red is the blood.
Yeah, Tarantino.
I mean, I think for me, I agree that was his performance in that monologue was amazing. But I do agree that was the worst part. To me, I knew who he was as soon as he made that comment about her trying to kill herself, right? And then she came back and said it again. And then he was like, that's cruel. He was like, he said something that's cruel. And she threw it back in his face that he said it. I said, oh, he's that guy. He's that guy who never gives credit where credit's due.
And that's why I stopped giving up. That's why I was no longer interested, because he was that guy. It's like immediately when you meet them, you don't scratch beneath the surface. Yeah.
And I think that's why I was so enamored with her character, because the whole time I really wanted her character to be heard. And I think that's this entire film, is that what she said in the beginning, she had to say it 85 different times. Because she said it flat in the beginning. You didn't think, like, what's wrong? He said. And she said, you didn't thank me. She literally had to, by the book, spell it out for him.
Can I just say,
before he really received it. And I just wanted the whole film, I'm like, yo, like, let her be her. And I didn't realize until like 2 seconds ago, but that's really what it was that I was so into her characters. I was like, she just wants to be heard.
I could tell something was up. And, we all have our experiences in the world. And that's why I think, attention to detail is important. When she walks into that house in that gown, I've come back home after wearing a snug dress. Okay. I want that shit off the second I get in the house. I'm like, why is she staying in this dress? That's the first piece of tension that I felt. I was like, girl. And I was, and just see like the amount of time she was spending in that, I was like, I've only kept my drag on that long either after being like mentally like drained, or like I'm just pissed off, or I just can't like shake something. Mm-hmm. So like, but like it was kind of hard to like watch her in this onesie undergarment moment the whole time, and it wasn't like really snug. It was like some loose drawers. So I was like.
That she dug out of her butt at one point. It was so honest though. Like she got the wedgie out. I was like, get that fucking wedgie out. Yes, this data. You better.
So just think. Yeah, sorry. I'm just the attention to what she's wearing and like how it goes from form fitting to like maybe a little restricting because it looked tight, and then and then just seeing how her clothing progresses, that kind of tells a story as well.
Mm-hmm. Didn't think of that.
Oh yeah,
smart.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Like, other than the problems we're talking about being problematic about the writer director using John David Williams as a microphone.
Yeah, let's forget him. We're no longer talking about him.
To me, I feel like the film, like I said, it was beautiful. A lot of the choices I don't think were necessary. Filming, like some of the shots and angles, it's like, hey, everybody, I want to be artistic. That's what it said to me. It's like, I'm trying to be artistic right now. And it took me out of the moments sometimes. Like, I was like, this is a story about like tension. So in some instances, it was great. But in other instances, it was totally unnecessary. And every time it made me think, he did that to look artistic. He did that to look artistic. And I wish he would have made choices that just kept me stuck on the two of them and not on the film. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's a moment that really sticks out to me, and I'm wondering what you all think of this. And it's when the camera is outside the house and we're seeing things through the window, and John David's character is like dancing around the house, and he like dances up on the ledge of the window and then back down, and I'm like, who does
Why did you do that?
No one does that. Not even in their drunkest moment.
Theater, and it doesn't fit.
Someone does that when the director tells them to, though. Like, I'll be drunk as hell. I'm not getting on the furniture, especially in this house that's rented by the production company.
It wasn't even the furniture.
It was like a ledge.
Right.
Weird.
That was weird.
That was very weird.
That was the moment where I checked out.
The director was he was intentionally, I feel like he is very inspired. He said Spike Lee, he's inspired by Quentin Tarantino. I don't care what nobody said. This man is a Quentin Tarantino film buff, and he was trying to recreate a little Pulp Fiction moment in that beginning. And a lot of it, some of it I was here for, some of it I wasn't. Like, some of the music, the way it was used, I was like, ooh, that was a nice transition. That was dope. But then it was forced sometimes, like, hey, watch me do this Quentin Tarantino-esque thing. And so, like, him pacing in a circle, I liked it.
Yeah.
I didn't like what the camera was doing, though.
It did unmotivated. Some movements felt
pacing was motivated. Him pacing, I agreed with. I was like, because I've done that. Literally, you up on one and you just moving. The camera, I was like, I don't need that either. Like, I could have done, but I'm not. I don't know what else I would have done to make the point he made it. But to me, it made me think about the camera, and it did make me think about them. Those are the moments that took away from the experience for me. The moments that made me think about it as a filmmaker and not it as an experience. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Another thing I thought, like, that they did so well was showing how we have this inner monologue that's going and going and going. So the fact that she kept bringing that up, that you forgot to, like, how it kept cycling back is like how we hold on to things when there isn't any resolve. And then thinking about filming things now during COVID, do you think that they chose their wardrobe because it was so easy to maintain? I'm not sure how long they shot this, but then they just had to take pictures of, like, her hair looks like this in the onesie and her hair is like this in the gown. And I think, and also his suit. And I think that's so easy to come back to as far as shooting, because, when they do picture matches, they only had to match these. So I think that was maybe a smart way also to do that, so that it wasn't like, what was she wearing? I mean, I don't know how long they shot this, but I was watching for consistency and they were consistent with the looks. So for COVID, that was maybe a great choice, because you don't have a lot of pieces. It's just this costume, this hair like this, his hair like that.
I would say that as far as it being a COVID piece, I'm really happy that they showed that, like, COVID in general is opening up a door for us as artists to get out of our boxes. Film does not have to be film the way film is always film. If you make sense, we had, like, this really, whether we feel about the polarizing parts, all of us were involved enough to have these really intense responses to this film, which may have never if it wasn't for COVID, might have never been filmed, and proven the fact that this and Ma Rainey, to me, are the two films that I've seen most recently that reminded me that we can have a play-like experience on film and be thoroughly enjoyed, thoroughly enthralled and captivated. We don't need these. It's not that I love those moments, but we don't. I agree with you. Film doesn't have to be only that.
Daria, it reminded me of how much I missed seeing, like, a two-person story. I was like, I only used to get that in college, and you really had that discourse talking about how you go about even continuing the art form of even like a one-person play, that in itself, it's like the least amount of people you have, the more obstacles you have in telling a story, just in, like, movement, intention. So I think all in all, it's really easy to, like, to pick apart everything else deep in the hardware of this story, but there is a lot going forward that I would like to see improved with this idea, with the idea of the pandemic and having to, it's like the least you have, the more interesting the story is going to be. And I think that's where this renaissance of art kind of thing people are talking about is like, with the least amount of tools, how can we make more than what we had?
One more thing. I know I've been talking, but that is what it is. I think the director didn't trust the fact that he could have just left his actors alone and that would have been enough. He felt like he had to make poignant cinematic choices that stood out. And I think that detracted from what kind of piece this is.
I felt like a voyeur sometimes. I was like, why am I outside the house?
Sometimes.
Can I stay inside?
I thought that was part of the point, actually. I really did. I thought that we were meant to feel like voyeurs. But the thing is, when he did his artsy stuff, that made it not work. Because it was like, then I was aware of the director.
Yes.
And I find it really interesting because one of the things that he says in response to the criticism of him, casting African Americans in a piece that, or writing a piece, I mean, he says that he wrote it for them, I think, or something like that. And
like specifically for the two of them.
I think so.
Sure.
He did. He did.
Is that
Oh,
what
he
said?
did?
Leah, didn't you tell me that he did?
His response to criticism was, well, I think of this as a collaboration, and I can rely on the actor's perspective,
Which is fair.
It's fair. I do not disagree with that. I think that is a way that you can actually cross cultural bridges and make something beautiful happen. But I don't think he did that exactly.
It just didn't work.
Yeah, because a lot of his criticism for that writer, he was very privileged. So a lot of that was that, like, imagine if this was like placed in Blacktown, Black people were like, you need to shut up, because he was so privileged. So like all of his complexes were just like, and Zendaya said that.
She called him out.
Bro, you had two parents. You don't have any vices or any of that stuff going on apart from the fact that you're a narcissist. Like, that's it. But, and so I think he missed some Levinson missed some moments because he gave him a Spike Lee because, of course, Malcolm couldn't be aspiring to be to the white film producers. That's why they gave him Spike Lee and all of these people. But then he, like, I don't know. It was just very weird, his complaints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think that if he had just let those two actors work, and I don't mind John. I think he needed to be a narcissist. I think the story was important for him to be exactly what character he was. But I feel like if the director had just let those two actors work and filmed it, it would have been more, because people are saying it was snubbed at the Golden Globes. I disagree. After seeing it, I feel like it was a good film, but I don't feel like it floored me. There were moments where I was like,
I had a good time. It was fun.
Yeah, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, I don't know how I feel. Now, what made me decide that I liked the movie was Zendaya. I haven't seen her do anything. I was telling Lee, I haven't seen Zendaya act since whatever TV show she did on Disney Channel when I was like 18, right?
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen her act. I've seen her in Spider-Man, but I haven't seen her like, and I was so impressed with her. I was like, you had better, because that scene where she was laying on the floor and just cried, I said, yes, whatever, yes. Know your circumstances, yes. Right. And then, so I'm sitting here just like, there's that part of it. I literally forgot what I was saying just then. It's been a long day. What was I saying?
No, you're fine. You were saying you really appreciated.
What made me like the film was the end. I loved the moment of him waking up and her not being in the bed, and we all had the same thought. She left his ass. Yes.
Right.
Yes, girl, you left his ass. But she was still there.
I didn't know that.
The reason I like that is because it wasn't a nice, neat little bow, and I knew they were going to give it to us. I said, they're going to break up. The whole time I'm watching it, I was like, so we're watching the story of their breakup. We're watching the story of their demise. Because it wasn't the story of their demise, my mind literally just exploded at the end. I was like, so what does it mean? It makes you realize that art does imitate life, and sometimes life doesn't just get nice. And so then you have to say, yes, she should have left, and we could see that she should have left, but sometimes we don't leave. Sometimes we stay right the hell there, and we sit in that, and it also, he did apologize and all the other stuff, but then his fear when he woke up, because he thought the same thing, right? But there was this voice in his head like, I get what you're about to say. He didn't think it like we thought it. Because he couldn't ever think that she would actually leave. But I think in his mind somewhere, he's like, is she gone? Is she gone? And then it kind of back to that whole needy thing. And then when he found her, he just stood there like a little puppy. And I was just like,
Her you're welcome didn't say to me that she was going to leave. So when that happened and I was feeling like, okay, so what's going on? I kept going back to that. You're welcome wasn't an ending to me. And that to me would have defined what, because that's when he said, I'm sorry. But it's like, that's so abusive that he said, I'm sorry. Then after all of this is when it hit you. Like, that's not okay. And I hope people who watch that know that that's not okay. But her you welcome wasn't a closing. It wasn't like, and I'm done with this relationship. It left so much like, I receive you hurting me because I love you so much and I'm still here. I got that from her, you're welcome, that it wasn't her leaving. So I had my anxiety when she wasn't there. I was like, where is she in the woods again? And there she was.
Where is she? Where is she? I'm like, in a year where...
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, in a year where we've just experienced so much Black plight, why do I need trauma right now? Why is this what we need? I mean, of course, people are deserved of their art, but it was just one of those like, okay, great. Well, nothing to look forward to.
Yeah, my anxiety actually, because I kind of agree when she said you're welcome, it didn't, like his apology and her you're welcome didn't resolve anything. But then when she wasn't there, my brain went, oh, she's dead. That's where my brain went.
Wow.
And he's going to find her.
Oh, now that would have been I would have been done.
Well, see, that was the more logical conclusion. But I don't know if that's real. Like, I really don't. It's just that he hurt her so much. He was so horrible to her.
Yes.
Like, I couldn't imagine her staying, but it's realistic that she stays, I suppose, which is sad.
What a boring night it was to me. I was like, this is but nothing happened. Y'all just arguing the whole night. I'm just here for all this trauma. God thought y'all was going to give me a Tarantino moment. What happened?
So we're at the 50-minute mark. So what we usually do on the spot when we do a musical review, oh my goodness. When we do a movie review is we do a stamp of approval or a stamp of disapproval. Basically, so each person's going to say, would you approve this movie or not approve it if, you were recommending someone else. We're going to go in a circle. So we'll start with Leah.
I mean, I always say that I approve things, but be critical. Like, I enjoyed watching it and and now I have my own opinion. And so I say be critical when you watch anything. Know your opinion and be aware of what they're feeding you and how you don't have to go with what the public view is, because the public view told me that this was from both ends two terrible people, and that's not what I saw. So, yeah, I would say watch it. I like both actors, but just have your own POV.
Dope. Becky?
Yeah, I'm sort of in a similar spot. I think it's beautiful to watch. I think that you can see some really amazing performances. My suggestion would be, if you are triggered by gaslighting narcissists, you don't want to watch it because it's super, super painful and doesn't give you any kind of catharsis or hope for anything. So, if you can keep yourself separate and watch it in a very detached way, I think great.
Okay. Summer.
Yes. I agree with what both of you said. I feel as if the work, like I said, I love, like I could go watch something, and if you gave me one good moment, I'm gonna be thankful for that one good moment and be like, the rest is trash, but guess what? I get to talk about this, and that's what it's always important. We're not leaving the movie theater and getting back in our cars and talking about it out loud. Maybe a lot of us are watching at home by ourselves, and like Becky said, there's a lot of triggering things in there, and I don't know if they gave a trigger warning, because there could have been a trigger warning, like for abuse, for mental health.
Ton of things.
for alcoholism, for anything, you know. Or I don't know if they put did they put a hotline number at the end? Yeah. So I'd say definitely watch out. But I think there are really good moments worth looking at, specifically for the actors. Both of them do such a good job with what's given, and I just want to see more of Zendaya's work. And yeah, I approve. It's a soft approve. It's like you know, it's like I'm like, well, I approve with hesitation,
right?
But yeah, I think for the commentary, just if you want to be up on the know, watch it. So if you don't really care, if you don't care for what we just talked about, literally don't watch it.
I'm gonna agree with everyone. I'm gonna give it a soft approve as well, because I feel like as an actor, I love this kind of stuff because I love to dissect and like, why did you make that choice? I'll be honest, I really liked a lot of her work. His work for me was actually spotty. I had these moments where I was like, you had better work. And then I had the other moments like, why are you making these weird choices? And I wasn't sure if, I think being, just to be a know-it-all snob, I think he should work on his impediment work, because I think the issue I had was his portrayal of drunkenness. But I really did like his emotional work. So, but as an actor, if you study acting, watch this film. Be prepared for the trigger warning stuff, but there's so much to learn from this film. The choices that they made, whether you understood why they made those choices or not, and all of that fun stuff that we as actors like to do, it's that kind of piece where you can literally just watch it from home, stuff that you would generally have to watch in the classroom or on stage. So for that reason, I say I approve. As a film as a whole, I think it's a decent film. I don't think it's a bad film. I don't think it's a great epic film. I do think it had potential to be. I feel like I wish that, like I said before, the director should have just left a lot of these cinematic moments alone. It's beautiful, but sometimes unnecessarily so. And I know it's strange to say, but sometimes it was unnecessarily beautiful. But yeah, a soft approve. So in general, we soft approve this video. So what we're gonna do now, before we head into our next session, we have a 5-minute clip of a segment from The Spot. It's my favorite segment. It's where we interviewed some actors who all have side hustles. It was one of my favorite experiences interviewing them, featuring Casey Ross. He is a caricaturist on the side. Kristen Storla, who is a fight choreographer on the side, and she's also got a mompreneur, concierge home services. She's gonna explain the video. We have EJ Cameron, who's my best friend, who does literally anything and everything he gets his hands on. Then we have Bam, who is the CEO of Art Hard Studios, and they're just gonna tell you a little bit about their experiences as actors with side hustles. Take a look.
Cool.
I'm here with Casey Ross. You designed promotional art for the Winter Wonderette.
It was fun to put together, and it turned out really nice.
I saw your drawings before I saw their costumes. I was actually really surprised at how accurate your drawing was. Like,
nobody was more surprised than me, I'll tell you right now. I got really close up pictures of the unfinished dresses, and I was like, okay, so they're gonna sort of look like this, and like Googled what A-line dress looks like, and then I was like, okay, so I think I can put that together.
The learning never stops.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're humble, at least.
I'm humble. I'm like one of the best at being humble that you'll ever meet. So
really,
nobody's more humble than me. Nobody's more humble than me. You can ask anybody. A lot of folks are saying it. So.
After sitting down with Casey, it really got us to thinking. To truly be a successful actor, you absolutely have to be a hustler and a jack of all trades. So why not do a segment on side hustles? Check it out. We're here with Kristen Storla, Bam from Art Hard Studios, EJ Cameron, Casey Ross. What do you consider your biggest source of income?
right now, outside of these government checks?
Providing concierge services.
You do have a side hustle.
Oh yeah, I got a bunch of them.
Caricaturist, cartoonist,
home organization.
So I owned a pool equipment repair business.
Drawer,
pet care.
Team building, improv shows.
We repaired like motors, heaters, electrical systems.
I don't know, sketch artist.
And meal prep.
Or sketchy artist, I don't know.
What did I just do the other day? I did a bar mitzvah scavenger hunt.
Voiceover is still a booming business.
My job right now, I play Mordred, the evil fire wizard in Tournament of Kings.
I'm a Lyft driver.
House sitting.
Big medieval night dinner shows, and I shoot fire, and it's freaking awesome.
I wrote for an ad company for a little bit.
I'm a tour guide.
You went the entrepreneurial route. Were you nervous, literally being a business owner and being an actor?
The balance is tough. You will have times where you go, which one of these things is more important?
My side hustle had to become my main hustle.
Would you ever consider something like that, like starting a business?
It's a Jay-Z lyric, but he says, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. So
Yes.
I am in the business of EJ.
Was your side hustle developed from any hidden talent?
Yes.
Okay.
My dad was a welder, builder, construction worker type, and so I was exposed to a lot of that stuff early.
How long have you been drawing?
As long as I can remember.
Truly, I think I've made a career here off of doing all the chores I had to do as a kid. I love filling a dishwasher and like getting
Really?
right. Oh yeah. So I think that's something that a lot of young artists can fall into, being beholden to wherever the money takes them.
By specializing kind of on that one thing, I was able to both sustain myself financially and create a schedule that I could work around with my acting.
When it comes to balancing your work life, your side hustle, and your personal life, how was that for you?
It's difficult because, you know, my dad's Jamaican. Jamaican's got 18 jobs.
Between fairs, I do all my work on an iPad. So it's all very, very portable. So I'll just sit in my car, find a parking spot, and sit and draw.
We all budget out the same amount of risk. How much quality of life do you have and how much time do you want to devote to your career? And so everyone budgets that differently. And for me, like, I value my quality of life.
The money spot is finding those side hustles that aren't fully side hustles, that actually you're utilizing your actor skills, training your actor talents, and getting, you know, some of that cash,
little cash.
thrill, if you will.
So, what do you do for self-care?
I'm a cannabis user. I
just always make a little bit of time for myself.
And you know that's something that I've had to learn because I will just work.
Yeah, you got 20 shows, you got more shows than Tyler Perry.
Drawing is a big part of that. My recliner is right next to the window. I roll the windows up, get a nice breeze going, and I'll just sit and draw, maybe with a glass of wine.
How
You
does
like
it?
the Terry Crews of Facebook. You are
Hey.
wrong, boy.
Evaluate, are you happy with the quality of life you're able to provide for yourself?
I should be asking
What?
you the question.
If you had any advice to give a young actor, what would that advice be?
Be kind to yourself, financially, emotionally, physically. Like, you're all you got.
You have to stop and celebrate your successes. You will be amazed how much work you have forgotten that you did until you actually take a beat.
One of the hardest lessons I had to learn in college, which was when you become a professional actor, your job is applying for work. It's auditioning more than it is actually acting. I would just say don't limit yourself. I think we are unparalleled in our ability to get into our own heads.
Sometimes it's good to say no. And have fun. If you're not having fun, you're the butthole.
That is one of my favorite segments from the spot. We also have done a lot of other segments. We did a full 24. It was not. It's three episodes, or I guess 3-part episode about Ma Rainey, her connection to Columbus, Georgia, the Springer Opera House, her understanding that Ma Rainey is the reason every genre of music you listen to today exists is really important. And then we do behind the scenes of all the things that they have going on. What's really awesome is their really bringing theater to people during COVID. They're building in a complete outside arena on their parking lot. They're building full set and stage and everything, and they're going to do outdoor theater for the rest of the summer. Now that the COVID numbers have gone down in their areas. So check them out. Go to springeroperahouse.org or go to YouTube and look at the Springer Opera House, and you can find out more information on the spot, future episodes, previous episodes. If you're just joining us, we're in the second hour of our movie review. We just reviewed Malcom and Marie. Now we're going to go into the live stage version of Much Ado About Nothing, starring Danielle Brooks, who is from Color Purple, Tony Award winner, and she's also from what's the
Orange is the New
Black.
Orange
and
is the
she's
New
also
Black.
going to be in a biopic about Mahalia Jackson by Lifetime. And but before we go into that, which Becky's going to lead that discussion, I want to remind you if you're just joining us, today's a fundraiser for Flirting with Destiny, which is the first self-produced project by Woe Nelly Media. It is going to be a web series. We got the first episode written already. We've built our writing team. We have our director. We have our director of photography. We've got our 3 main cast members. So we're going to add some more crew, hopefully buy some camera equipment, locations, food, services, all that stuff. But we need your help. So please head over to gofundme.com/f/flirtingwdestiny and donate, or just share the link so that other people can donate. And let's get to our goal, our daily goal, maybe daily, but today, our day goal for the first day, we want to try to get to 1,000, which will have us at, what's a fifth? What is that in percentage? 20% of our total goal. See, I did that because I did my homework of fractions back in 8th, whatever grade that was, Becky. Okay. So, without any further ado, Becky Becker, we're going to talk about the Much Ado About Nothing.
Okay, thank you, Duryea, and thanks for inviting me. This has already been a lot of fun.
It has been, yeah.
And the reason I suggested this particular production is not just because I love it, but because of the way that Kenny Leon sets up the premise for this play. So before we get into that, I think it's probably a good reminder for those of us who maybe don't remember the plot to Much Ado About Nothing by Shakespeare. It's kind of a wonky plot in a way, like most Shakespeare. I mean, because what happens is you've got this man, Leonardo, who's a nobleman, and he has a beautiful daughter, Hero, and we discover that, Hero and Claudio are in love, or they quickly fall in love when Leonardo lets these soldiers come into his home, actually, who've returned from the war. And so Hero and Claudio are going to be married. Hero's cousin is Beatrice, and she has this really snappy relationship with Benedict. And so that's an important thing for us to note, especially since the characters, I think there's a lot of focus on those characters and that relationship. So what ends up happening is there's the bad guy, of course, Don John, who sees Hero and is really jealous that she and Claudio are together, and so wants to set up a situation where it looks like Hero has been unfaithful to Claudio. And so he sets this up using some of his minions and causes a situation where Claudio, in a very harsh way, leaves Hero at the altar, embarrasses her, she collapses. It's said that she's dead. She's not really, but so it's a typical Shakespeare, lots of subplots and scheming, and part of the scheme, the happy part of the scheme, is actually trying to get Benedict and Beatrice to fall in love, and in fact they secretly are in love, and so that's kind of a beautiful thing that ends up coming out of it. So that just sort of sets up the plot. Eventually Hero and Claudio do get back together because Don John is discovered and is sort of forced to reckon with his lie and his hatefulness. So Kenny Leon, who used to be the artistic director of True Colors in Atlanta, directs this and sets it up. This is in Central Park. So it's the public theater that typically does these Central Park showings of fabulous Shakespearean works. And so I just want to throw the question out there. What do you think when you see the large Stacey Abrams sign on the side of this beautiful brick building in this beautiful park, and it says Stacey Abrams 2020? What does that immediately place you in for this play?
Well, let me tell you, that was the seed that I felt like I was branded immediately. I felt like I felt it. I've never seen imagery that struck me to my core before seeing brilliant work like I've never seen before. But seeing the Stacey Abrams 2020 sign made me feel joyous. It made me happy. Not only because I was surrounded by nothing but dark-skinned actors playing roles that they should be playing, you know? Yeah. So it made me hopeful. It made me, and we were talking before we got on here, how ironic it is that they didn't even know that Stacey Abrams was going to be such an important part of 2020. Stacey Abrams, any year, really, because she could be Georgia's next governor. She could be the next president. She could be the next person to save humanity at this point, in my eyes. So, you know, and to kind of like zigzag, you know, the beginning and the end is you get this strong sense of fighting. Yeah. And that's what Stacey Abrams 2020 means to me. Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, to me, I didn't realize Kenny Leon did this. And now after seeing it, I was like, oh, of course this was Kenny Leon. I immediately was struck by, because you know there was like a little preview section. I was immediately struck by that it was the set. That was just breathtaking to me. I was like, first of all,
I forgot that was outside for 1 second. I thought that was a cyclorama. I was like,
listen,
they're outside.
As a theater person doing Shakespeare outside, I was like, all right, do Shakespeare outside. Thank you. I'll take it. And then, because then the nature, and it's such a part of really all of his work, but then nature really does allow nature to become a character, especially in like later on the shift, where we're starting just at the opening. It's funny because with the opening, and then can we talk about Danielle Brooks, or we just talking about the?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you talk about what I'm talking about.
So the opening was a great image, and you know, just a beautiful set, and it allowed you a moment just to take that in, right? And then the characters come out, and then Danielle Brooks' characters come out, and then they start doing this mashup of America the Beautiful and Marvin Gaye's What's Going On.
What's Going On?
That was a great moment. It was a cappella. Danielle Brooks and that instrument that she had. It's like, how dare you? How dare you? You know what I'm saying? How dare you? So she comes out, she sings her face off with her cast members, and it's a great way to start because then right after that you have the soldiers entering, and they're all carrying these protest banners. So immediately with the Stacey Abrams thing going on, you're like, okay, I guess at this point we've gotten to a point where you say it's surprising that they didn't know it was coming, but I mean, how could you not know it coming in the way it came? No, but the unrest is so present. Let's speak on it in a way of like, you know, you have this celebration of not only what it means to be black, but I really like that they mashed it up with America the Beautiful, because it's okay to be black and to be patriotic and to love your country. And I really like that is the message, that we love our country, we love this country, but we also love our heritage and our culture. And that's really what the entire thing was, this celebration of, to me, because you saw this celebration of black culture and Shakespeare, European. And it fit the way that they allowed the language to just be what it was. And they had these very Shakespearean moments, and then they would do a little something. You know, I just thought it was very. I get the point that they were making, that these things can exist together and it could be really beautiful.
There are so many things that I want to say. I'm gonna like practice like not going ad nauseum because I have so much that I want to come out of my mouth.
Yes.
But to specifically like knock everything I want to say about it, there's something about what Shakespeare's work is. How many hundred years ago? How many?
Several hundred, 450, 400. Yeah.
Okay, great. It is so refreshing to sit in a story and see nothing superimposed on my people. You know what I mean? There are so many different, even though, you know, the story of daughter and father and daughter and fiance and fiance, those relationships will be the same for more hundreds of years to come. It was so nice to like get all the other bullshit that's just fed to me, especially for just coming straight off of Malcom and Marie. You know, we don't have all these different like, okay, what are we gonna give these niggers today? What are they're gonna be upset with their white boss? They're gonna be upset with their white society, or we're gonna be upset with their. So it was so nice to see, and this is the brilliance of Shakespeare, is that, you know, people can be people and we don't have to pay attention, you know, and we can pick apart his work. And this is why I can just talk ad nauseum about it, because I watched this last night. I stayed up until 4 a.m. thinking about it and just the world. But it was just so nice to see, like, you know, real relationships with a true Black attention to culture, you know. And Ken Leon, he did the remake of The Wiz. Okay, let's remember that was amazing. And also he did American Son with Kerry Washington on Netflix. So for him to just really understand the storytelling, he is brilliant, and it shows, you know. And just I want to volley it to Becky in any shape, way, or form, because I can keep talking.
Oh, I want you to. I really do. I mean, I agree with you. And partly one of the things, so much of what you've said is exactly why this production moved me. And like, during, when you were describing that opening moment with the mashup, I got chills just thinking about it, because it felt like a moment for this company of actors to just sort of take this play and say, this is ours, and we're going to tell this story, and also show through this story how this country is ours and our existence in it is ours, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I really connect to, Summer, with what you said, is that the beauty of Shakespeare, or the way Kenny Leon used Shakespeare in this way, is that we had these, and this is what I love about good Shakespeare. There are these moments that are really connected and sincere. Like, you see Benedict and Beatrice, like, they love each other. Like, you can see it, and there's like a vulnerability and a loveliness to it. But then 2 seconds later, they're like totally just, you know, being a jerk to each other, or like doing a little dance, or taking it in a very theatrical direction. And I feel like this was true throughout the whole company. Each character had these really down-to-earth, sincere opportunity moments, but then also had these moments to just shine in the theatricality of the language, and of the situation. So that's all of that is why I thought it would be really great to talk about this piece. I had a question about, because there's some criticism about the use of the play to show protest, and I don't buy that criticism, but I'm interested, like, what do you think it is about the men coming in, and it's actually not just men, it's actually both men and women coming in with the protest signs? How does that connect to the integral storytelling for you?
Integral as far as this story, or storytelling in general?
This story, but then the story that Kenny Leon is really trying to tell with that Stacey Abrams sign, which is, I mean, we know where we are immediately because of that sign. So
I think for me, how I interpreted it, because this was it's actually in comparison, it's funny to compare this to the last one where I say I feel like he made a lot of unnecessary choices. This was an understated choice that made a point quietly. He made a point quietly, you know, and because he trusted not only his company of actors, but his audience. We got the point. The point being that even with all of this, it sucks that we live in a world today where even with all this joy that we can experience as people and as Black people, at the drop of a hat, it all changes. When that alarm went off at the end,
oh my God!
And by that time, we had forgot about it. We had forgot about it. We forgot. And I think it's interesting because the audience was majority white, so we had forgot about it. So for us, it was, oh my God, that's right. And I think for the white people watching, I hope that they would have understood, okay, this is a little slice of what it's like. As soon as you get comfortable being in your skin, you're once again reminded, no, you're Black. And I think that's what Kenny Leon was really trying to say with everything, and part of that, like, and I was explaining to somebody on Talk It Out, or we do after shows where we're talking, and I was like, the thing about being Black is, it is not safe to forget. Is as a Black person, when you forget you're Black, and I know a lot of people say I don't see it, was like, but we don't have that choice because, and a lot of people might disagree with that, like the Candace Owens of the world, but it is deadly for a Black person to forget in a space that they are Black. And this is an example of that. Like, as soon as they had he literally 2 hours later, you know, as soon as it happened and they had to go right back to it, and then you see the way the women reacted. All the little stuff that had happened before was just no longer of consequence. It's like, now we have to go back to that.
If I can just speak to that moment specifically, I felt almost this super saturation of what it feels like to experience Black joy, and then, you know, the exit of it when you're encapsulated in. And, you know, it's just not being Black, but, you know, whatever makes you feel beautiful, or whatever surroundings makes you feel 100% yourself, you can get lost in time. And that's what I felt like with this production. I felt like I was lost in time. And for Kenny Leon to accomplish everything he did in 2 hours, you know, I've seen Kenny Leon act in a play like 12 years ago at Emory, you know, and I remember since then, I was like, you know, this guy, there was this play called Blood Brother. And I think it was maybe 12, 11, I don't know. But it was a 2-person play. And I'll never forget watching him in that and then seeing his trajectory path. Directing Shakespeare is not easy. It's not. You know, and because there's not only do you have to be the storyteller through movement, you got to understand every single word that Shakespeare said, because every word is different. And I think that's why it worked with Black vernacular, because everything we do is so different. Everything is so different. But to go back to your question, Becky, I want to say waking up Black every day is an act of protest, period. That when you step out onto the street, your skin color is an act of protest. You cannot. If I walk into a predominantly white space that's held by white people, I'm not, you know, I don't have my protest sign, but I'm actively there representing something different than what's in the room. So it's like, how can that not be a protest? So, you know, I think whoever said that, or whoever hints to like, maybe this is a touch too political. I mean, Shakespeare is the epitome of everything political. I mean, that's what's so brilliant about him. He dissects, it's just not, you know, groups of people, but society, the world, love, humor, fear. Hey, it's everything is up for dissecting.
And the thing about Shakespeare, I want to talk about his language, because how can you not, right? The thing that's interesting about Shakespeare's language and his stories is they've been managed to be retold for 400 years and always be relevant, or somehow made to still be relevant. You know what I'm saying? I love that his work, despite what people say about it, has been able to fit itself into every culture. Like, I did a Shakespearean play where I was... it was in the Western, you know what I'm saying? And luckily enough, our director cast me and another Black guy as Lysander, and rest in peace, Riarcos. I love you so much. Me and him as Briarchos and Lysander. Demetrius and Lysander, which I immediately was like, well, okay, because black dudes wouldn't have been. And she actually was like, no, actually, there were black men in the West who had. And I love that she educated me on that, and it was historically accurate, and it fit. All of these choices fit in this whole different setting. And when you watch Shakespeare, he's been able to translate that. But I've never seen Shakespeare done in this way, where it was so rich with African culture, especially African American culture.
Almost every strand. They had their little vernacular in there. The dancing was in there. The gospel was in there. He touched on R&B. He touched on a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of acoustic guitar. He touched on the relationship between father and daughter, the relationship between cousins, and we know how black people are about their motherfucking cousins. Okay. We don't play about our cousins. So to me, I'm watching this and it was like, Shakespeare knew that he was like, all right, and this is my black people's play. That's what he said. He said, I got my Scottish play, I got my black people play, I got my European, my Roman play. And I feel like watching it, it was really dope. It just makes me have a deeper appreciation for Shakespeare and how fluid his work really is. Like people say he's all these things. And I get sometimes he's problematic, sometimes he's like misogynistic, but he's also a result of his time. But I really appreciate that it was able to make the statement it made. Once again, the team that they made, I'm going to say it again just because I want to say it. It is important as an artist that you realize, and I actually learned this from this woman right here. Trust your audience. Trust your audience. Your audience is intelligent. Your audience is smart. Don't think that they're dumb, because as soon as you start to spoon feed them, you lose them. He trusted us to be like, okay, we're going to get in this little smidgen right here. Then we're not going to, and we're just going to leave that poster up for the rest of it. And then at the end, we'll remind it. If I could just say an interesting detail that I really loved, how everything was modern, right? Everything was modernized, but they kept the swords. And I found that to be so much fun.
I didn't even catch that.
And I was like, something to that speaks to the people who love the bare bones of Shakespeare. And that's, the whole like pomp and circumstance of it all.
I want to say something real quick, because I forget. The constable. The fact that the constable kept talking about God, I was like, that is such a black thing for me. Like, every word out of her mouth was, because God said, and I said, how did Shakespeare not write this play thinking about a black woman? How? He wrote that part for a black woman to play. There's no way he did it.
You know what? I think it's safe to say that the attention to breath in black vernacular and spacing of words is almost Shakespearean when you think about it. You know what I mean? There's so much attention to detail in the way that, that the cadence of it is, with each comma, there's a breath. You know what I mean? And there's the whole time, I did not know I was watching Shakespeare.
You forget. You definitely forget. Like every once in a while. But then there were so many dope moments. Like I loved, because Becky, I love playing with the audience. When she did that whole little bit. At first I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. But when she did that whole bit of hiding in the audience, I said, well, first of all, it's Shakespeare. So there's always that fourth wall that's like it's the fluid fourth wall that's like there and then it's not. And it is there and it's not. And I like how they just totally tore it down at one point. Like she literally took this, looked out and said, that's what I'm saying, And when she made the lady get up out of her seat and hid behind her, I was like, yes, do that, because it allows for, especially when you have a space like that, you have to include the audience. They're literally a part of that, the way the stage is set up. They're just as much a part of the stage as the physical stage. And then you make them a part of it, you bring it in, but you have to do that in a way that seems fitting. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't take me out of the play. It just puts me more into it. We're literally talking about two versions. Like those are the two things I didn't like about this movie, but loved about this. He knows how to play with the fourth wall in a way that brings people in instead of making them making them reject what they're seeing. He knows how to deliver a message. He knows when to play up. Now, I will say, watching Malcom and Marie, because it's on film, you get to see all these subtle things. And then this was the exact opposite. This was just theater. So it was interesting watching them both. I feel like it's funny. The person who's acting I like the best, I don't remember his name. He was one of the two dudes who got arrested. The one with the really short. I liked his acting the best. I feel like he found a way to really give that like theater bigger than life, but there was just this really nice authenticity and this honesty that he had that I feel like.
Wait, didn't he have a short amount of time on the stage?
He wasn't on stage a lot. Listen, but I've been waiting for these things, TK. You know me. You know
I feel you. I know. But I mean, dang, let's talk about some main characters too.
That's my thing about it. Like, I feel like some choices were too much. I'm gonna say I feel like some of the choices were too much. Specifically, Hero. I feel like some of her choices were. I was like, you could have did that smaller, boo. You could have did that smaller. But I mean, I get it's an arena, but first of all, everybody had a microphone, so
right.
Yeah,
I think just to, I don't disagree necessarily, but just to think about the fact that we actually got a more intimate version of the play
because we had cameras.
It was filmed, and so the audience that's there doesn't get any of that. Right. So, it's always a little tricky when you're trying to translate something that's intended to be in an arena, in a park, in this really massive setting to film. So, in fairness to the actors, I think that's just it's a hard line to
but write. That's why I think he stuck out to me, because I feel like he managed to do, it might have been that his character didn't have to do as much, but I feel like he managed to do some of that stuff, but not making it to where I was just like, all right, you're doing too much. Another actor I like. Sorry, go ahead. Another actor
I just want to just to talk about the actress who plays Hero. I think that playing that part, I don't want to say it's hard to be so real, or like it's hard to be so like just an all around lovable character. You know what I mean? Like to really play at it, or not play at it, but like embody it. I think I loved her because she reminded me of Chloe and Halle. I was like, this is they lost
triplet. She did look a little Chloe and Halle. Yes,
I was like, when you decide you like yourself, like just the ungodly hour.
I will say this though. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just. I think, and I want to talk a little bit more later, so I don't want to. But I really want to talk about Leonardo. That's her father's name, Leonardo, and Hero's relationship.
That's what I was gonna say.
Through the filter of the what Black society puts, what it means to be in a Black society with a father and a daughter.
But this is the difference, though. What I liked about it was, this is the thing. An affluent Black father who is that, you don't see that relationship a lot in film. Not saying it doesn't exist. You don't see it in film or on stage. This idea of this affluent Black father who is really doting on his daughter until he thinks that she, has been having sex out of wedlock. And so, to me, you don't see that. You don't. And I really appreciated that. But I actually really liked his acting. He kind of gave me a little Carl Winslow at times. The scene where, what's his name? Benedict.
Which one?
Benedicto was on the roof, and they were trying to like talk Beatrice up. I thought that scene was so well blocked and so well like acted. Like
when he hopped and he said,
yes. Kobe. My favorite part was when dude went to lean on the panel. Dude was standing behind the panel, and he moved up them stairs so fast without a sound. I was like, he ran up the stairs so fast. I was like, man, that is comic gold. Like, I feel like they did well with the comedy and balancing that and making it believable. I do think that Danielle Brooks and him, they handled their comedy very well. There were times where I like literally was like laughing out loud. There's one part specific I can't think of, but I think they handled the comedy really well. Like, he knew who to give his lines to that were funny. He knew who not to give his lines to that were funny. Not saying not to give, but he knew who to give the lines that were more serious in tone. I think they, as an ensemble, they worked very well together.
Yeah.
in those scenes where they were dancing, it was choreography that didn't look choreographed at all. It looked so like they were just dancing.
That's what you see at some parties, like that, and that's what's beautiful about Black people is that, like, you know, we come from a place where our feet know what to do when it fucking touches the ground. We know what to do. You know what I mean? So, like, it's just not saying that, you know, it's a blanket term sometimes, but it just made me feel connected. You know, I have African culture too, so it's like, you know, that's also that attention to detail in the music, because they really did a good job of like taking us through so many different like time periods, and I think that's important to do too, because, you know, this is one big old time capsule of an idea, and it being set in Georgia of all places, you know.
Georgia.
Yeah,
like it was a history lesson,
in a sense,
but not like in a lesson way, but just in this beautiful, just acknowledging of the influences, both African and American and Shakespearean and classical and comedic. And, you know, it just really bridged a lot of gaps that could have been wide gaps, I think. And often are wide gaps when I see Shakespeare. There are just so many times when I see a Shakespearean production and it does one thing really, really well, but then it does other things badly.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes away from the good.
Yeah, definitely.
I think one thing they really did well was capturing the spectacle of a Shakespearean experience. The greenery, the brick wall, the colors of the wardrobe, the lighting, the fact that it was in nature. Like, it felt like as easy as that. It felt like I could have also been in Athens, Greece. Is that weird? Like, it still felt like it still had that quality to it, that romantic, ethereal kind of like everything is royalty and all that kind of stuff. Like, it was beautiful, but it still was modern. Like, even when they were wearing their casual clothes, there was like this, like her stuff always flowed and all these things like that. I was like, they were really smart. Costumer, whoever costumed that show.
Yeah, props to them. Props to them hard. And it's well, I could just go on and on. There's something about the casting that was just so brilliant. If we really want to talk about like what it means, even the idea of how, you know, Black media entertainment moves today. You know, we see, you know, we got a trifling light skinned man. You know what I mean? We got there isn't this commentary on weight, but you know, it's there. There's this strong, sexy man that loves this voluptuous woman. I'm like, okay, great. You know,
and
we get this.
I love that.
Yeah.
That was the thing in there. I remember at the beginning they were talking about which they thought were more attractive, and he was basically like, bro, she's the one that's attractive to me because, you know, because of, you know, I love that. And I love that because I feel like that needs to be normalized. Like, bodies are all beautiful, and
they didn't need to mention it. Yeah, and that's the brilliance behind Shakespeare. I mean, it can be so much that it can be delved into just by staying true to who the characters are and what their intentions are.
Sometimes I have difficulty with this play because of the way that Hero is treated, particularly because everyone is so quick to believe that she was unfaithful, right? So that's a plot thing. That's a Shakespeare thing, and that's a Shakespeare thing in most of his plays. There's something
always that thing.
The woman is always getting the shaft.
Yep.
I mean, you know, but I wondered how that worked for you in this context. Like, was it made to work in a way that you could kind of let go of some of the trouble?
You know, Becky, I think it's brilliant to talk about this because it goes to show that, you know how sometimes they say the disconnect sometimes between Black women and white women is misogyny. You know, it's this overarching, like, you know, it's sometimes it's like the controlling of a woman's body. You know what I mean? It's like the ultimate, you know, white patriarchy kind of like vibe, but that trickles down, that creates these different kind of like, you know, I'm not saying that's always the case, but it feels as if, you know, the discourse has been, especially for 2020, you know what I mean? Like, for the word Karen to be out here and be like hardcore, you know, the discourse between black women and white women. So when we talk about like the idea that that what's her name, Hero, you know, if there's a plight that she has for being black and for being a woman, you know, and that is a whole other commentary, you know, because at the end of the day, it should be women together and not, you know, that swirled in my mind too while watching the wedding. Oh my goodness, the wedding. Oh, the wedding. Ooh.
That beautiful ass wedding.
So beautiful.
Ugh.
So beautiful. So joyful. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, and that's why I just loved so much about that. I could keep going about towards the end where we experience a black wedding and a black funeral. It just,
he really did touch on all that's so
the
I
broom.
didn't think about that. He did really he used this play as a chance to really celebrate the full spectrum of the black experience. Wow. That just hit me literally 2 seconds ago.
Yeah,
and
no,
my brain is exploding.
No, it's going to explode the whole day because you guys stay up for the next 10 hours.
Yo, because I mean, when you really think, sorry, go ahead.
I really like that you. So you know, I was talking about women and misogyny, and that is often a problem. But something that I'm wondering is, does the intersectionality of that, in the context of the way that this is cast and directed, change then the way that Hero is seen?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Because, you know, what's that Martin Luther King quote or Malcolm X, the most disrespected woman in America is a black woman, or the most disrespected person in America is a black woman. And that was so prevalent. And that was just like, oh my goodness, it really, and you know, the past year that we've had, I mean, my goodness, Kenny Leon did not know what he was teeing up.
He didn't. But the thing is that I think that is so kind of heavy and prescient about his interpretation of this is that all of this that happened has been happening, right? And for so long that even though he couldn't have known that this was going to be a year in which there was an explosion, another explosion, I guess, of a need to say, okay, let's stop this police brutality. Let's stop this treatment of Black people. Let's stop. I mean, I got to be honest. The thing that still kills me is Breonna Taylor. That like, and all of it kills me, all of it. But I'm so, and then it's not just Breonna Taylor either. It's also that now lawmakers are working on transgender people and the intersectionality of that. If you are a Black transgender person, then where are you in this dialogue, in this world? So sorry, I'm going on a little.
No. Human rights starts with trans rights. Trans rights are human rights. Once you start there, the only way out is up.
Yeah.
Say that again. And I mean, I think it's important. Like Leah said, like Emily said. Well, like Emily said, everything's intrinsically political. But like Leah said, like and Becky, we learned in theater history, art has always been political. Art is, in a sense, the voice of the voiceless, because it is a lot of times how people who are marginalized, abused, whatever, they get their voice out to people who probably wouldn't hear it, or just get their voice out, right? So I really appreciate when you can take an experience like this, use it as a chance to hit so many pillars. It's something that's familiar, because even if you haven't seen the show, you know who Shakespeare is. And most likely you've read something Shakespearean because it's in like every high school criteria. So you're introduced to this thing you're already kind of comfortable with, but you're seeing it through this other lens, and without alienating the viewers, it still celebrates a specific culture in a way that is authentic, joyous, fun. But then the way he added the extra bits of the singing and the mashups and stuff, and made it political in a way that was just truthful without being preachy.
Yeah.
He didn't preach the lecture. He didn't preach the point. He just said it. And, you get it, you don't. But I think it was very obvious because I could feel it through the screen. When that siren went off, I was like, the hell? And then when their reaction to it, I was like, oh, that's right. And then her singing at the end, it's kind of like, well, I know what that's about. And I could feel the tension in the audience from the screen. So I feel like, man, that's why he's Kenny Leon at this point.
And I love the whole the telenovela moment of it all, where Beatrice, the actress who's playing Beatrice and Benedict, and she's like, "Go shoot him, do it now!" Like, and we got to remember that, like, this is a script from hundreds of years ago where we got swords and we're here to stand our ground. Yeah. But yeah, I Danielle, right? Danielle Brooks. Is that her name? Brooks.
Yeah.
Wow. What? So much fun watching her. So much fun. And when she lets out that wail at the end, it's like, my goodness.
What's crazy is she did all that singing after using her voice the way she used it that entire play. Like, she has a great command of her voice. Like, her voice, every single syllable that came out of her mouth felt like a song. It's crazy. Like, she spoke,
Shakespeare's music. Shakespeare's music.
Handled like let me be honest, actors out there, everybody can't do Shakespeare. Nope. Everybody cannot handle that text. I'm so sorry to say it. And if you can't handle Shakespeare, there's nothing wrong with that because you can learn to handle his text, right? But you have to.
It's like you have to be a fan of his work. You have to be a fan. How can you have to be a fan?
If you're not a fan, you're not going to get his words. But if you do give his words the energy that it needs and allow it to just use you and be poetic, it absolutely has the ability to do that. And I think she just submitted herself to his words and was like, all right, this is what we have to do. And then, filtered through their interpretation of it, she just went a little extra with it. Like, that's a lot to do. And then to sing like that at the end.
Some of it, I think, has to do also with you have to be really in your body to be able to speak those words. And if you're not, there's going to be a disconnect. It's going to kind of sit somewhere up here and out here. And it's never, I don't think that when Shakespeare is performed like that, when it's not taken in and then brought back out, you can't connect to it as much as an audience member. Like, there's something that's got to be really embodied about it. And that's, cross-culturally. I think that when it's just precious, like held as being separate, it doesn't work. Maybe for a specific character it could, if it's done purposefully, you know what I'm saying? But not because it's a rhythm. I mean, it's the didum 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 didum. It's
right.
Heart rhythm, right? So if it isn't embodied in some way, it just can't
communicate. There has to be a genuine, it's like we can't. I love that. Bringing back to the heartbeat, because it's like when something is triggered by your anxiety, or when your anxiety triggers something, that is natural. You can't control your heartbeat when shit goes off. You can't. So it's like when you allow the text to live in your blood. And that's what a lot of it was. I mean, I think of the actress who played Hero, and like when she is just sitting there weeping and crying, and it's just like she just embarks light, you know what I mean? And and also all the dread wigs on that stage.
All the dread wigs. Halfway through, I looked around, I was like, wow, everybody has dreads. Yeah. And except for like one or two women had wigs on, like just straight hair wigs, and I was like, that was a choice. That's what I thought was dope. Like, it took me a minute to realize that they were all wigs, and I said the choice was to make this a family of people who not only were affluent black people, but were also black people who had locks. That is rare. Because not that it's rare, it was intentional because he wanted to make a statement. Because a lot of people, the assumption is that if you're wearing locks in your hair, you're a thug. Mm-hmm. That's what people like to make that connection to nowadays. But he's like, no,
and if
no,
people
no, no.
if people have an
heritage.
opinion on that, there are literal laws that allow black people to be fired because their hair does not identify with company standards. So that is a true thing. People look at that as a horrible thing, unfortunately.
It's crazy. I mean, who gets fired for wearing a wig? Right? Do you know what I mean? Like, a white person doesn't.
No, I think he's saying that you can get fired for wearing.
I know. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying, it doesn't make any sense.
Right. It's because the idea of kinky, coarse hair being out, there's this centuries built. We are taught we won't see in our lifetime the idea that kinky coarse hair is appalling to look at. I'm not saying I don't view it that way. I view it as beautiful, but sometimes I forget I'm from the South and I'm African, and there's just a lot more black people down here. But out in the great in America the beautiful, what is going on?
See, and I forget this too because I just think that I don't know. I like dreads. I like when people do their hair differently. And so I didn't even pick up on that, Duryea. I just was like, ooh, everybody's got their own way of being and presenting themselves in this
It was a large majority of them. It was definitely the family, the Leonardo, Hero, Beatrice, some of the soldiers had locks. I think the constable had locks.
Yep.
I think he made a point. And when I realized they were wigs is when I was like, oh, he wanted these people to have locks because most of the wigs were locks.
Yeah.
And I was like, so he was trying. I felt like he was trying to make a statement. So I was like, what is that statement?
No, I think you're right. I just think it's interesting that that is not one of the things that I pointed out for me. What I kept seeing is that everybody's style was so
authentically their own,
specific and their own, and it matched their movement and it matched who they were in that world. It was just, it was really special.
I knew exactly who all those people were. And also, I think it's so, like I said, we could talk another hour about this and probably still find another hour's worth of information to talk about. But I think with also the attention to hair and the black culture and all cultures that grow this hair out, it is important that the black man keeps his beard right. You know what I mean? It's important that the black man, he had a lace beard. You realize he had a lace beard?
Well, because he had to shave it halfway through.
Yeah. But when he comes in looking all fresh and he's feeling himself, I was like, wow.
I hate to do this. I just realized what
time
it is.
And that's why I said time.
Yes, it is time. So at this point, we're going to say thank you to Becky and Summer. Also, Leah had to go to class, but thank you to Leah as well. This was an awesomely incredible hour. Also, shout out to Springer Opera House, who is co-opting. Is that a word? The spot. Is that co-op? No?
Co-op? Kind of a negative connotation, I think.
Really? Okay, so they're
kind of a sharecropper vibe. You feel me?
Okay, so they're
co-sponsoring,
producing. They're producing. Help
co-producing. There you go. The Spot, which is a newscast, but you can find the SpringerOperaHouse.org, where you can also buy tickets if you're in Columbus or if you ever want to visit Columbus in the summer. They're starting their outdoor theater festival with Singing in the Rain. Head over to GoFundMe.com/F/FlirtingWDestiny, and you can please donate. We are raising funds to fund our very first self-produced project called Flirting with Destiny. It is a web series, which which you will hear more about if you're staying with us all day. If you're going to our next stream, which is a seminar on real estate investing held by Jessica Myers. It's going to be awesome. That's going to start right after these ads we're going to play. If you're on Twitch, you just hang out with us. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, you have to find the next video. Please head over there and hang out with us. We will be going for about 11 more hours. We passed the noon mark, so we're about halfway done. You guys are awesome. Thanks for hanging out with me on my birthday, and thanks for contributing to this awesome conversation.
It's your birthday. Oh my goodness, what?
I didn't know that. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Look at you. You eternally.
That's why I did it. They were like, when do you want? My friend Tim was like, do this thing. And I was like, when? I was like, I'm going to do it on my birthday. So, we have to go. We're about to be behind schedule. Sorry. So,
okay, great. Love it.
I will talk to you all later. Thank you guys. I love you guys so much.
Love y'all. Nice seeing you back.
And we will see you next stream.
Bye.
I see them standing in the streets, probably wishing that we could meet, but I just stare and frown and feel the world goes round and hear them cry, but I don't move away. I guess I'll save it for another day. I see a brother, strong and full of heart, and he's meant to go far, but he's scared of driving in his car, cause he might get pulled over.
Hi, I'm Jessalyn Pease Garrett, author of Timeless, The Law of the Coven, my new book that came out August 1st of this year. This is the second in the Timeless series, and it features a teenage witch. She's gonna hone her magical abilities, and we're gonna pit her against a dark coven of witches. So I hope you enjoy this book as much as I enjoyed writing it. Timeless, The Law of the Coven is available online from all your favorite retailers. Thanks, guys.
Hello! I am Glorp. Yes! I am Glorp. I have a riddle for you. Do you want to hear it? I'm going to tell you the riddle now. On Tuesday, at 8 p.m. We D&D is Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific. On Twitch, at the Art Hard Studios channel. I am Glorp. Glorp has said all. I am Glorp.
We are counting down the days to closing out the beautiful Frasier. And one of the things that I really love about our projects, because we named them, we built character, they're almost like your little baby, and you're ready to present it to the world. And one of the things where you look at the little details, and then we start to nitpick, and then before you know it, a few weeks turns into a few months, and before you know it, your project is prolonged more than you thought, just for the little details. But one of the things you have to do is just breathe, relax, and trust the process. Know that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, and you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. And as long as you stay in committed action each day, you will ultimately get to completion. These things and more, we help investors get their start in real estate investing. So contact us, visit us at it'sjessicamyers.com to learn how you can get your start today.
I'm excited to be in a show with them finally.
Oh wow, it has been a while. For Color Girls was the last show we were all. That was the first show 10 years ago. Yes. Oh no, don't delete that out.
That was pre Woe Nelly Media, but it was in fact a Duryea Rashad production. Yes. So there you go.
First time we did it. I know.
Babies.
We were babies. So we'll really see how much we've grown. That'd be great. Yeah, I love it.
So here we are. So excited. Great.
Hey everybody, my name's Chris.
I'm Duryea.
I'm Ricky Z.
Justin.
And Julian.
Have you heard about Anchor.fm? It's the easiest way to make a podcast. First off, it's free.
Oh, I love free, especially when we're talking creation tools that allow you to record and edit right from your phone and computer. And Anchor will actually distribute your podcast for you. So as soon as you're finished recording, you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms.
And you can make money off of your podcast with no minimum listenership.
It's basically a one-stop shop for everything you need. So head on over to anchor.fm and download the mobile app now. And make sure you come back and geek out with us.
What am I actually telling my body? And the things that our body needs to survive, you can't weigh it down with all that junk, all the chips, cookies, cakes, and pies. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about that. And I know for me, that's my struggle. My weakness is sweets. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I had already planned when I got this video to make a run to Del Taco real quick and get one of them sweet cheesecake bites. Let me tell y'all something. Them things will make you slap your mama. They're so good. Lord have mercy. Is that drool? That done got me drooling.
Hi, this is Cody from Cody Paul Media. Thank you for joining me. Anybody can record a video, but the question is, how do you make that video stand out among the rest? A quick animated video like this one can change things around for your company, so go to codypaulmedia.com and get those needs met today. See you later.